record deceiving?
According to people maybe where I used to work that have played them already, um, very deceiving. And I think that's part of the deal with being in the league. I think we've experienced it in our program, and other teams you've seen it too. It's a 30-game schedule, and the fun thing about it, you can do a lot of things in a short amount of time. And the stressful thing about it is you can, kind of go the other way in a short amount of time as well. So a little bit of its nature of the league, but the two things that will always hold constant with our conference is it's a very big challenge to go on the road and play well and also win a series. And then every team that you play during those 30 games is going to be a very difficult challenge as well.
Tony, having said that, how comfortable are the guys away from home?
I think so. I think they really enjoyed the travel we did in the fall, and that kind of gave them a little inside look and how things are going to go. And then we did our usual, tournament that I think was kind of mind blowing how cool it was with the way the Shriners do everything and the competition and of course playing in that park. And then now our guys don't have any excuses. They've been there, done that. We go down to Tuscaloosa. Alabama's kind of revamped things a little bit. They've always had a lot of talent and a little different deal going on there now. And so now our guys know what it looks like to go on the road, and it's probably going to be similar. It came down to Sunday, and it came down to, you could call it a few pitches, but really all the pitches make up the game, and probably be similar either this weekend or any weekend after.
Feels like Auburn is never really out of any game. Offensively, what makes them dangerous?
I think, the two left-handed hitters, Irish is doing a lot of catching, and then McMurray at first base kind of took the baton from Sonny. There'll always only be one Sonny, but he took the baton from him, and it kind of works that way in this league. You usually got two or three guys that the rest of the lineup, maybe operates around a little bit. I don't know if that's a fair way to say it, but there's other guys too. Their right fielder's been there a long time and has a lot of experience. So a lot of, to be honest with you, it's a generic answer, but a lot of the things that the other teams have in the league, they do too.
Pretty late in SEC play last year. By the time y'all played your first rubber match, you like the fact that y'all are getting a heavy dose of that early in the season?
Yeah, because I think you start to learn how to navigate those waters a little bit. It can be very emotional on a Sunday. There's stuff that has led up to that moment. There's back and forth. You're more familiar with the team. And then you're wanting to do so well because there's a finality to the thing, or finality, I guess I should say. So again, to see what it looks like, to experience it, and also get repetitions under your belt so you can repeat or use what's worked for you in the past and maybe discard or adapt to things that have not worked is certainly in your benefit when you have experienced it like that.
Team's kind of been bummed and bruised a little bit. Kind of where are you health-wise? AJ, Tavares, Billy?
Yeah, and part of the AJ thing has been, you've asked, so I feel guilty, but you're so caught up in the moment of what's going on that day. And for him, we knew there would be a gap in between when he'd be available and when not. So, and then also kind of like when things started, it's soreness and strain in certain areas. And those sore and strain are two very vague terms, but that's what he's dealing with. And I think you got to take into account what are we trying to do this year, but more importantly for AJ Russell's career, what are we trying to, we're kind of looking for another Garrett Crochet, to be honest with you. There's only one of those big guys. He's doing well. I guess a big fella out there on the mound. So, we got to take that into consideration when we're looking at things. So there'll be a gap between when he starts ramping things up again, and then, of course, a sequence of events will have to happen when he's out there.
See him the other night against the Braves?
Yeah, and, if you live in this area, the Braves, by proximity, can kind of be the home team for a lot of people, and then the Vols are certainly the home team too. So I knew who I was cheering for, but I don't know how others were. But Billy will probably be out this weekend, but every day I'm like, what are you doing, dude? And he says, I have permission to do this. So he's about as ambitious as you can imagine, wanting to get back out there. He'll travel with the team, but I don't know that he'll be active. And then for the most part, Benke, I think, is ready to come back. No one's 100%, but other than those two guys, I think guys are seeing Woody for treatment, and Woody's got that magic rub or whatever that drink he gives our guys, and I think they'll be able to go out there and compete under the conditions that their body allows.
What's it been like to watch Trey during his first week in the big leagues?
Kind of mind blowing. And, we chatted after Sunday's win, and of course, everybody's in a good mood because you win the series. But I think everyone was laughing at how long my answer was and how glowing it was for Trey. All the other coaches and support staff would do the same around here. It's just, it doesn't always work out that way where the guy who does nearly everything right gets rewarded. And just a tremendous story. And I think it's going to go on for a long time. It's frustrating he was that close and we couldn't all go watch in person. But the time will come, maybe this summer or sometime in the future, where we'll be able to see him and some of these other guys perform well. But it's fixing to be a fun ride here for the next couple of years with this group of guys that will be in pro ball, and then some of them will be fortunate enough to play in the big leagues.
Jay Causey has been so dominant. What are you looking for him this weekend to kind of have a bounce back?
I think presence is a big thing. It was a frustrating day Friday. You're facing a really experienced and stacked lineup. So things can, the downward spiral can start maybe quicker against Georgia than it could for another lineup. A couple things don't go his way, and there just seemed to be a level of frustration that I was unfamiliar with. And his presence in the weight room and at practice always is kind of similar, kind of stoic, and always kind of blinders on. I'm charging ahead, and he seemed to hit a road bump with that a little bit. And so more than anything, just for him to maintain that presence. I think if you get too caught up in results, or you used the word dominant, which is nice, and he had been really done real well. But if you're going out there to dominate in our league, you're probably going to be frustrated, even because you might just give up 2 runs. But to hold the other lineups that we see completely down, I don't think is a realistic goal. I think the best goal is for him to be the best version of himself, which he was not last week. And the biggest part of that, again, to me, is presence.
What gives you confidence that he will get back to being the best version of himself?
I think how he does things day to day. We've had guys, Mr. Beck has a blip on the radar screen there that everybody wants to scrutinize for a minute, but you judge a guy like him or others not based on one moment or one day or one play, but just what do they like every day. And like Jordan Beck, the kid is a superstar worker. He's a great teammate. He's eager to learn. He's humble off the field and confident on the field. So again, I think just, the high number of repetitions or the big stack of information we have that contradicts what, went on last weekend. And it's not like last weekend he was awful or was throwing his glove all over the place or anything like that. He ran into a really good team, missed a spot too many times, and then I think got frustrated when things didn't go his way instead of buckling down a little bit more. And who knows, leave him out there like we did with Beam against Alabama. He could have put a positive spin on that outing, but we decided to kind of play the pitch count game and maybe get him a little extra rest because it is a long season.
Where do things stand on the left side of your infield going into the weekend with Billy out and given what Fargo did last weekend?
Yeah, I think Alex Perry looks really good at the plate, so I'm anxious to see if he's healthy enough to play. I guess that was one name he could kind of throw in there that is in limbo a little bit. I think Dalton is comfortable wherever you put him because of his attitude, but also because we've thrown him around everywhere. So he's got experience at each position. Ariel now kind of has gotten some at-bats under his belt. I wish he had 50 more, but it's not going to be the case. So we might as well just move forward. The kid's athletic and capable, strong enough, and confident enough. So, and Dean's for, I was going to make a California joke, but he's low maintenance. Let's just put it that way. And I think he's capable of playing at both spots. So it's nice to have options. We've got options, and I think we'll kind of play it out as we see fit against the pitching that we'll see. I know Friday we know who we're facing, and then they'll announce their starter the day of the game the next 2 days. So we'll kind of play that game a little bit too.
What are some of the benefits this week of not having them?
I think rest and recovery has been key for this group. Dean Curley, I don't think, since we just talked about him, I don't think he really fits into that category. But some of these other guys have been through the battles. They've been playing every day from day one. They really get after it in the weight room with Q. So I think recovery and rest is important, and it can be very beneficial to hit the reset button there in a little bit. And it was kind of like our little all-star break. We crossed over the halfway point this past weekend. If we were a much younger team, which we might be next year, I'd say that we need to do a scrimmage or something like that to simulate that game. But this is an older group. There's a lot of experience, and there's a lot of guys that if we don't tell them, hey, calm down a little bit on the repetitions, they won't do it. So I think this worked out well, and we were able to mix in some good things the last few days on the field.
How much of a blessing is Fargo's versatility and kind of his mindset as well?
It's massive. I mean, I guess maybe he's our Zobrist. And Frank always talks about back in the 80s or 90s, it seemed to be taboo in the big leagues to be a utility guy. You wanted to master one position. And starting with Zobrist, I think an exclamation point was put on the fact that if you can do a multitude of things, you're more valuable. And I don't think he's an expert in any of the positions he plays. And I think that's more by age than ability. But he gets after it, in each spot. So when you're sorting out that active roster for the SEC, or you're looking to travel, it can come all the way down to the last guy who's somebody that can do something different. I know on a lot of teams I've been on, the last guy to make the travel roster might be the guy who can go down to the bullpen if needed and catch a bullpen. So we're looking for any way possible to be prepared and also to win games. And he helps as much as anybody in a bunch of different ways.